The Slavs and the Slave Trade. The History of Enslaved Slavs Across Eastern Europe and the Islamic World by Charles River Editors. Narrated by Colin Fluxman. Introduction. It has often been said that the greatest invention of all time was the sail, which facilitated the internationalization of the globe and thus ushered in the modern era. Columbus's contact with the New World, alongside European maritime contact with the Far East, transformed human history and in particular the history of Africa. It was the sail that linked the continents of Africa and America, and thus it was also the sail that facilitated the greatest involuntary human migration of all time. The African slave trade is a complex and deeply divisive subject that has had a tendency to evolve according to political requirements of any given age, and is often touchable only with the correct distribution of culpability. It has for many years therefore been deemed singularly unpalatable to implicate Africans themselves in the perpetration of the institution, and only in recent years has the large-scale African involvement in both the Atlantic and Indian Ocean slave trades come to be an accepted fact. There can, however, be no doubt that even though large numbers of indigenous Africans were liable, it was European ingenuity and greed that fundamentally drove the industrialization of the transatlantic slave trade in response to massive new market demands created by their equally ruthless exploitation of the Americas. The East African slave trade, on the other hand, or the Indian Ocean slave trade, as it was also known, was a far more complex and nuanced phenomenon, far older, significantly more widespread, rooted in ancient traditions, and governed by rules very different from those in the Western Hemisphere. It is also often referred to as the Arab slave trade, although this specifically might perhaps be more accurately applied to the more ancient variant of organized African slavery affecting North Africa, and undertaken prior to the advent of Islam, and certainly prior to the spread of the institution south as far as the southeast African coast. It also involved the slavery of non-African races, and was therefore more general in scope. Islamic slave traders engaged in a particular form of ethnically based slavery, whereas for much of human history slavery was somewhat arbitrary in its later forms. It often had a discriminatory component, typically based on race, ethnicity, nationality, or religion. This distinction shows how the practitioner...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?